Hey guys, so we're gonna do something I haven't done in a long time. This is gonna be a single angle video. No front facing, no second, just straight up, straight to the point, simple. So this is the X1 Mini. Now, for those of you that may not know, this is a 5-episode series, and some of you may have realized, wait, episode 4 came out, which was the review of the X1 Mini, but episode 3, which was the starter guide, wasn't. There's an explanation for that. Basically, I shot everything. I started editing the video. I went to bed. I woke up for some reason. My Mac decided to wipe all my files but one, and I had no audio, just one angle. So yeah, I had to scrap everything. And by that time, I had sent my X1 Mini, but I have since received my IgG campaign unit. So I'm going to be able to do it with this. I'm going to show you 2 ways that you can basically bring back your X1 Mini to factory. One is going to be very simple, very easy. The other has a little more steps to it. So the first thing, I'm just going to remove that little bit of plastic here. So here we have the X1 Mini in all its glory. One thing you're gonna need for sure is a keyboard. A Bluetooth keyboard will not work because you're gonna need to get into BIOS, and for that you need something wired. So you're gonna have to make sure to have a keyboard. Of course, if you bought it from the IgG campaign and you got the gifts, I'm pretty sure you would have one, but if you don't, you're gonna need to make sure that you do. If you want to do the more complicated method, you're also gonna need a USB stick drive. So we're just gonna go ahead and power this device. I'm hoping there's some battery in it. And let's assume that this is not my first power up and you want to do the delete key. Now, I think you can also do the turbo key up top, if I'm not mistaken. This one. I think you can also mash it, or maybe one of the volume keys, but to me, the del key always works. So this is the BIOS. This is the first way that you can bring it back to factory. And this is only going to be good if you have not touched your hard drive, your NVMe drive. If you have not changed it, if you have not swapped it. And here you should have the UEFI, I believe it's UEFI OS, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll go ahead and click on that one and you just let it run its process. And that should lead you to the OneXPlayer One Touch Restore. You see here where it says start. Basically, all you have to do is hit start, and it's gonna ask that you are plugged in or that you have a certain percentage of battery. So it might not let me do it. It will. So I guess it has enough battery. By the way, this is something that is so amazing with all of the recent OneXPlayer devices I've owned. They keep their battery so well. Like, I can not charge them for a week and still the battery is always going to be like losing maybe 1 to 2% a day, which is extremely little compared to some other handheld PCs. Anyways, all in all, you let this process go by, and here's what this is going to do. If you've installed Steam, if you've installed games, if you have pictures on your OneXPlayer, whatever, if you have any files that are important, what it'll do is it will wipe everything clean and it will put it back to factory exactly the way that it was when you purchased it. Now, some people want to do a fresh format because, it's a Chinese-based product, and there's always that conversation about spyware and adware, and people want to get rid of any risks of having that. To each their own. I mean, personally, I don't put personal information on these devices. I use them exclusively for games, but maybe you do, and maybe you would feel more at ease to be able to wipe it clean. If that's what you need to do to be comfortable about these devices, that's what you need to do. When we'll install Windows, we'll make it so that this possibility can remain on your device. But I couldn't stress this enough. If you change your drive, you will lose the opportunity to do that. You're gonna have to either make a ghost image of your drive, or you're gonna have to put back the same drive with that partition. So now, as you can see, it's in the process of booting Windows, and once we get into Windows, it will ask that I enter my information for the first time. However, because I want to show you guys how to do your starter guide, we're not going to do that, and rather we're going to take our USB stick, we're going to go to my PC, and I'll show you what you want to do with your stick. Okay, so we'll just power this one off and we'll be back with the second method. All right, so in hopes of not having to record any voiceover, we're gonna do this at the same time. So this is here, what you see here is my USB drive. This is my download folder, just to make it easy to move things. When plugging in your USB drive, whatever we're gonna have to do will completely wipe it clean. So if there's anything in there of value, make sure to pull it out. Ideally, as I always mention in my videos, I strongly recommend going for something of good quality, Lexar, SanDisk. So you wanna go to Google and just type Windows Media Creation Tool. And we'll go to the first link, and we just wanna select Windows 11. Now with that method, you do have to keep in mind that you will have to bring your own serial number. So make sure to have that in hand. You can install Windows without it, but you will get nagged after a couple of days saying that your license is not activated. Now you want to download this where it says create Windows 11 installation media. Go ahead and now, as you see here, we have the file. So we'll just go ahead and open the file. You should see this window right here. Agree to all the terms. Normally you should see your USB drive, but always make sure that it matches the letter of your drive just to avoid any bad situations. Use the recommended options for this PC. Yes, that's what I want. Technically not in the States, but it's okay. We want to say USB flash drive. As it says here, it has to be a minimum of 8 gigabytes. So we'll just go ahead and hit next. And we can see that the drive is here. If for some reason you don't see it, maybe unplug, replug it back in and do the refresh like so. We see it here, we hit next. Now, the moment you do that, it will wipe it clean. So again, just a little bit of a heads up, make sure to save your files first. All right, when you see this, your USB flash drive is ready. It means it's done. By the way, while the percentages were going up, they stalled at some point. Not to worry if that happens. As long as the circle keeps turning, just wait. It might take a couple minutes. It took me ballpark about 6-7 minutes. It could be faster, it could be longer, depending on your internet speed, depending on quality of your drive. But yeah, it took me about 6-7 minutes. Now, once it is finished, oh, and by the way, if it closes this window, not to worry, that's normal. It's because it just formatted it. So you just reopen it once it is done. Okay, so now that we have all our files to be able to install Windows, we're actually going to do one thing before we take out our drive. I'm going to create a folder right here. And I'm calling it files. You can call it whatever you want. So what we'll do now, we'll just open a tab and we'll type AMD graphics driver. And the first link should usually do it. Now here we have Windows 11, well, Windows 10 and 11 driver. This is exactly what we want. Just download this.
Hey guys, Clef from the future. I realized after the fact there's a bunch of files that I forgot to let you know about. So in the comment box, there will be a Google Sheet link in which you will have all the links of what you need to download and put into that files folder, so that once we move to the X1 Mini, you want to install each of them one by one. So when you see the video later in the video, you'll see that it doesn't necessarily match the files you have. That's normal. It's because I got them after the fact. So make sure to click on that link and grab everything that is in there. I'm also going to put the files from Discord that you want to grab. They may go away after a certain amount of time. So if you realize that you're not able to download those links, just put something in the comment box and I'll update the links. It's going to take me a second, but I would still recommend that you just go to Discord and grab those files to avoid that issue. However, I got you, and I'll make sure to put it in the Google Sheets file as well. So if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. Let's continue the video.
While this is downloading to our USB drive, we'll go ahead and open Discord. You will need to have Discord to be able to go download this on the OneXPlayer official, well, the OneNetbook official Discord. And if you don't have a Discord, by the way, it takes literally minutes. You don't even have to download the software. You can do it from the browser. In the OneNetbook official Discord, you're gonna have your different channels. You want to go to the channel that matches the device that you're on. For example, in my case, it is the X1 Mini AMD. We'll just go there. You see right here, there's a little tack pin. You want to click on that and it'll show you what we need to download. So first we'll download this one. I'm gonna grab the link. I'm gonna download this one. And we also want to download this right here. You can also just click on it. I'm just doing that manually to show you what it looks like. But once you have these two files, which are right here, so you'll just go ahead and the EDID one, you can just move it over to the folder you have. And the other one, we probably want to extract it before moving it to the file. I'm just going to go ahead and leave the folder that is here. Click extract. And while this is extracting, the last one this one you can skip. It's not working right now for some reason. The Wi-Fi and Bluetooth driver, you don't necessarily have to, but I would recommend that you grab them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And the last one you want to grab is the OneX console. Now, you can actually operate your device without the One X console, but I would strongly recommend that you don't, because you do have a lot of features, like for example, addressing your RGB. There's a very simple way to address your fan curves in there, but you know, it may not be the main software you use. I use Handheld Companion a lot. Personally, I use both, but I do believe it's important to have One X console to have the richest possible experience on your X1 device. You also have some cool features like having low frequencies to the rumble and all that good stuff. Now that we have extracted this, we're going to move it over to our files folder. Going to move the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth. Well, I should let it finish, but I'm not patient like that. Yes, go ahead. And then last but not least, when the One X console is finished downloading, we'll go ahead and move that over as well. Right, the last thing I was missing was One X console. Yes. So that should be everything done on our PC. We have our Windows Media Creation tool done. We have all our files here, and we are now ready to take out our USB drive and move back to the X1 Mini. Just make sure to exit properly. So you want to right click on your drive and do eject, because otherwise you may occasionally corrupt files. If it says it's currently in use, give it a minute and then just try again. There you have it. All right, let's move to our X1 Mini. Okay, so now that we are back to our X1 Mini, and assuming that yours is closed, we'll just go ahead and insert this little thumb drive that we have prepared. Here you go. And again, we will power the device while mashing our Del key so that we enter BIOS once again. So I'll just go ahead and do that. I'm just holding the FN key and pushing delete. We now are in BIOS. So again, we go to the last tab, and you'll notice this time that we have one more option here. And in this case, it is the UEFI vendor C product code. Yours might be different. If you have a Lexar, for example, or a SanDisk USB drive, it might say the brand. I'm using a generic one that OneXPlayer sent me from having won a giveaway on their stream, and I think it was kind of fitting that I use it to do my X1 Mini. It's going to be the one that wasn't there before that has a different name, so you want to go ahead and push enter. And this should kick off our Windows Media Creation tool. Now, if you're using that process, you do have to keep in mind that we're basically wiping the drive off of the files that OneXPlayer installed on the handheld that you received. And so the reason why I'm saying this is when you use One Touch Factory, it comes with a serial number already entered. If you do this method that we're about to do, you will have to provide your own serial number. So you probably want to have that handy so that you're not caught off guard, because if you don't have a serial number after a couple of days, you're going to get nagged by Windows saying that you have to activate your operating system, and it can cause issues over time. So language to install, that I'll stay the same. Time and currency format, I'm actually English Canada, so I'm just going to go ahead and change that. And then keyboard, I'm a filthy Canadian French, but I use the Canadian multilingual standard. All right. So this is very simple. You can just follow the process. You can use the touchscreen as you've seen. It's going to install the files. And once we are back, we're going to handle all our drives and all the good stuff. So it should take a couple of seconds. Here we are. You have to check the little box. You hit next. And then, okay, so you have two options here. If for some reason you had a Windows installation and it got corrupted, you could do upgrade, but we're going to do a fresh new install. So we want to do custom install Windows. Okay, so here we have our different drives and different partitions. I want to bring your attention to the two bottom ones, which they might not be in the exact same order. Technically they should, but if they're not, don't be surprised. They should both be called recovery. Now, in my previous video that I did for the OneXPlayer, where I did a starter guide, I deleted these two. The reason being that my partition was corrupted. I couldn't restore using the One Touch function. But if it's working just fine, as it is with mine, I'm not going to touch this partition because it might be useful in the future. If I'm selling the device or anything like that, if I'm giving it to a friend, a relative, that's probably the way that I would want to factory reset. So I would suggest that you don't delete those. And also the two top ones, which should be the smaller ones. So here, for example, it's 100 megabyte and the other one is 128 megabyte. That should pertain to the master boot record. Ideally, don't delete that because you can have other issues. If you do delete them, it shouldn't be the case, but for, just for argument's sakes, don't. Now, the last two that I want to bring your attention, and these ones, depending on the size of the drive that you have, it may differ. They always, and they all seem to do that. iNeo does that, GPD does that, OneXPlayer does that. They partition your drive in half. They keep one for games and one for your operating system. There is really no purpose to do that. It doesn't serve, it doesn't make anything better. It's just a thing they do. So if you're comfortable with that, we're just going to delete the partition where it says Windows. If you want to bring all your space into one drive, we're going to delete the one that says Windows and data. I'm going to delete both just to show you what it looks like, okay? So if you do delete, okay. Now this is our Windows partition gone, and you'll notice that it says right here, unallocated space. So now I'm going to delete data. Okay. And now you'll notice that the unallocated space is bigger. So it means that it has both drives. So I could just go ahead and do new. And now it's going to ask, how big do I want this partition to be? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this partition 500 gigabytes. Okay. Do apply. And that means that the other partition that they call data, that I can call whatever I want, will then be the rest, but it's unallocated. So we're going to go ahead and do new, and we'll just take the balance and do apply. So now it's going to ask which drive do we want to install on. You want to take the lower number, right? Because this is what your master boot record is set as. We want to keep it that way to not have any issues. So you want to hit where it says partition 3. Hit next, says okay, and it's going to install Windows. Just sit through it, let it do its thing, and once we're done, we'll be back for the rest. All right, with our device now restarting, it's going to do that a couple of times. We're going to have to enter our information on Windows. And by the way, I didn't mention it, but the fact that your screen is in portrait orientation is absolutely normal. Unfortunately, there's not much that we can do about that because it is a portrait panel. Once we install the drivers, once we're in Windows, we're going to be able to rotate it. But for the time being, it is absolutely normal, not to be worried about that. Okay, so now we just follow the simple process, answer the questions, the usual Windows stuff. So I'm just going to do that process and we'll fast forward to once we're in Windows. Okay, now that we're finally back in Windows, we're just gonna either right click if you have a mouse or just hold on the desktop and do display settings. And here where, if you scroll down where it says display orientation, you want to change it to landscape flip. And now we are back at the proper orientation. I'm also gonna just lower the brightness, hopefully, so that you guys can see a little bit better. There you have it. Okay, so now Windows is installed, but we still have a few ways to go. And the first thing we want to do is just open a folder and go to our drive and go to the files. And basically all that's left is to install everything that is in here. There's one thing also that we're gonna do. So I'm just going to go ahead and install everything. Honestly, it doesn't really matter the order, so I'm just going to start at the topmost. Yes, oops. And just go by one, really. Go one by one. Here on the Intel driver, I just say complete because, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if that, I'm not trying to save a couple of bytes. So yeah, just go complete and you're not going to be missing anything. The EDID, by the way, that you want to store because every time you install new drivers, you will have to redo it again. In fact, I probably shouldn't have done that. It's no problem, but I'm going to have to redo it again once we install the display drivers. Okay, so once we're finished installing everything, you're gonna hit your Windows key and you'll type device and you want to go on device manager, and you'll notice that we have two things left and where it says other devices with a yellow triangle. So it doesn't matter which, you're gonna right click on one of the two yellow triangles. So we'll just hold and we'll do update driver. From there, you're gonna go where it says browse my computer for drivers. And here you're gonna select the folder on your USB drive. I'll show you which. So you want to do browse. You want to go where your drive is. So here it is, files, and where we extracted our folder, you just want to take the root one. So it should be GA88-X1 Mini. It could be different if you're doing this on a different device. You want to do OK. And then you just want to hit next, and it should drive the match. It should find, the matching driver for this device, which in our case was the fingerprint reader. And we're going to do the exact same thing with our left yellow triangle. So update driver. Oops. Update driver. But at this point, the folder is already there. So all we have to do is just hit next. So same goes, it's going to find the driver. And here we are done. Everything is back to the way it was. I'm adding this extra part. Now, you may not have to do this. This is only if you wiped your data drive. If you have not, it should be here. You should be seeing C and D. But if you did wipe it and you did split it again, you should be having both. So for example, I have a 2 terabyte and you're only seeing 488 gigabytes. That's not normal. So if that happens, you want to hit your Windows key. You want to type disk management, and something should come up. This one, create and format hard disk partitions. And you should see a partition that has no letters. So basically, you just want to right click on it. And where it says change drive letter and path, you want to associate a letter to it. So you want to do add, and in my case, D, and OK. It might ask you to format it. If it does, just go ahead and format it, and then it's going to be fine and working. Again, if you have not did what I did in terms of the drive, you may not have to do this. So this is an optional step, just to make sure everyone knows what to do if you're missing some of your space. That is because your drive needed to be assigned a letter, and there you have it. Now for the rotation, what you want to do is hold your desktop and do display settings, and you want to scroll down where you see rotation lock, and you just want to put this on, and it will not rotate anymore whenever you move your device. Now, of course, as it is a 3-in-1, if the tablet mode is important for you, don't put this on, or you can just, take it on and off whenever you need it. And so here we are, guys. We're absolutely done. All that's left is install Steam, install Epic Games, whatever store you use, the games you want to play, and whatever tool that you use this for. And here we are. I hope this was helpful. It's a fairly lengthy process, but this is really what you have to go through if you want to get a fresh install. That is why, because, this entire process was probably approximately an hour, give or take. Whereas the One Touch took literally 5 minutes. But then there are some security concerns for some people, and I respect that. But that is why, if ever you wanted to sell this device, if ever you wanted to give this device away, I find that the One Touch solution is very simple. And as you can see, we're just going to go ahead and reboot just to show you that it's still here. Oh my God, there's updates still. Ugh. So back into our BIOS with our USB drive now removed. Again, if I do UEFI OS and I just hit enter, we are back into One Touch. Of course, I'm not going to do that because we just went through this entire process. I'm done for now. But yes, that is it, guys. That was the 2 different ways that you can do a fresh install. In some situations, I do find that the One Touch, One Key recovery, whatever they call it, is the way to go. But in other situations, you might want to do the whole process, which we've seen as well. And yeah, that is pretty much it, guys. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, let me know in the comment box. Always happy to make those videos. And hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Peace.